Well, this time I would like to make a video on the Black Knight satellite, actually, that has been in orbit since it was detected, 1960s actually, and some people state that it's over 13,000 years old. Here's a short clip now with the satellite. Well, here are some images of the Black Knight satellite. As you can see, NASA released these images actually, and they're incredible. The truth about the Black Knight satellite mystery. There are around 3,000 human satellites working around the Earth, while there are over 10,000 pieces of human-made satellites in orbit as we speak. However, if the debris of old and damaged satellites are taken into account, the number increases dramatically. Ever since the Soviet Union launched the very first artificial satellite into orbit in 1957, various countries around the world have sought to compete, and satellites today are used for communication, navigation and exploration, spying, everything. Satellites are often visible, passing overhead as the sunlight reflects back towards the Earth. One of them is impossible to miss. The largest satellite currently in orbit, the so-called International Space Station, at a huge 100 meters across. However, these satellites are relatively unexciting in comparison to the mystery surrounding a very old satellite, the so-called Black Knight. Legend has that in orbit around the Earth is a mysterious dark object which dates back perhaps 13,000 years. Its origin and purpose are inscrutable. Dubbed the Black Knight, this elusive satellite has allegedly been beaming signals towards the Earth and inspected by NASA astronauts, yet only a few on Earth officially know of its existence. The origin of this ominous name is part of the enigma. It is impossible to discover who first called it this, or indeed why. Humans have only in the last 6 years had the technology to launch a man-made object into space, so what is the logical explanation of the tales of this alien intruder at our doorstep? Well, let's check out Wikipedia on the Black Knight. The Black Knight, also known as the Black Knight satellite, is an alleged object orbiting the Earth in near polar orbit that ufologists and fringe authors believe it is approximately 13,000 years old and of extraterrestrial origin. However, it is most probable that Black Knight is the result of a conflation of number of unrelated stories. Well, fringe authors claim that there's a connection between long-delayed echoes and reports that Nikola Tesla picked up a repeating radio signal in 1899, which he believed was coming from space. The satellite explanation originated in 1954 when newspapers, including the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the San Francisco Examiners, ran stories attributed to UFO researcher Donald Keyhoe, saying that the US Air Force had reported that 2 satellites were orbiting the Earth had been detected. At this time, no man-made satellites had been launched. In February 1960, there was further report that the US Navy had detected a dark, tumbling object in orbit inclined at 79 degrees from the equator with an orbital period of 104.9 minutes. Its orbit was also highly eccentric with an apogee of 1.2 kilometers and a perigee. Well, these are exact details of the object, of how it was moving, and this they released back then. They talk about this mystery. Yeah, this was Wikipedia. Now we'll go back to armacplanet.com. It portrays a different reality on the Black Knight satellite. It portrays that Nikola Tesla apparently got transmissions from somewhere, from outer space, and that these transmissions were coming from this Black Knight satellite. The first the story begins with signals heard by Nikola Tesla, a brilliant Serbian inventor, an electrical engineer. He was an electrical engineer and produced works which explored the idea of radio and wireless transmissions. In 1899, he reportedly intercepted a signal unlike any of the natural sources from Earth, such as electrical storms, that he had already investigated in his experiments. Instead, he announced that regular signals must from an intelligent outside source, potentially from Mars, he states. Today, there are those who say he was listening to a transmission from an orbiting satellite of unknown origin, later called by some the Black Knight. Well, the Black Knight is a very interesting object. I personally found out about this Black Knight late, a couple of months ago actually, and you actually see these pictures of this object in space, and you can see it that it is not natural. It has two protruding entities on the rear here. It is sleekly built to the front, pretty much as a spacecraft. Here's this turned. You can see it that this is a construct and that it is not a natural stone hanging there. Well, as you could see in the last clip, this object is artificial. It is not man-made because it has been detected before even Sputnik got launched into space. So what is it? An extraterrestrial object, an extraterrestrial satellite there to study us over time? We can only speculate. These pictures come from NASA. And it is said that it's over 13,000 years old, that Nikola Tesla picked up its signals a long time ago in 1890, I believe, and that this object has been sending a signal band since then. Now for me, I found out this about a couple of months ago. For me it's nothing new. I researched the alternative history on the Third Reich, where apparently the Vril Society and the SSE-4 built also saucer-type aircraft in the 20s, 30s and 40s, and that these Imperial Germans actually settled in South America and the so-called Inner Earth. I made a video about the Hollow Earth a long time ago. So at the same time, I've read transmitted transcripts from Jan Udahauli or Jan van Helsing in his book Aldebaran, that these Imperial Germans or the Vril Society back then was in contact with the Aldebaranic Aryans. And looking at the videos from the Disclosure Project from Dr. Stephen Greer, you have to combine all these different realities and build up your construct on reality like a puzzle. Not only the Zionist Jews conspiracy, their control of the media, their control of the educational systems, their control of virtually every printing press in the world, their control of over 90% or 95% of the global media is in their hands, and they tell you what reality is. They also control Hollywood. They create this artificial reality that you have to deprogram from. The internet offers you the possibility to open your mind to these subjects, be it now 9/11 Mossad operation, false flag operation, or Holocaust revisionism, or the truth about apparently everything that you can think of, the UFO phenomenon, the ET phenomenon, the cover-up operations that's been running on since at least 60 years, if not longer. On all these topics, you have to build up your worldview. Again, the Black Knight satellite is just a perfect example of it. I didn't know about it until I stumbled upon this on the internet. And I was like, what? For me, it's a reality that the galaxy is full of life, that the shadow government of the USA is in contact with dark ET entities also, and that the Imperial Germans are in contact with the Nordic aliens or the Aldebaranic Aryans, and even with other races, ET races. There's so much going on, and they keep you in this hypnotic state with their mass media, and all the people who claim to see UFOs or claim to have contact with them, like John Adamski, who claimed to have contact with Venusians in the 50s or in the 60s. They are all put on trial on TV, and then you look at the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, and then they state that this is all not the case and this is not true. And they make fun of these people. Like the Phoenix Lights as an example. The Phoenix Lights, hundreds of people saw this huge craft, multiple football fields across, flying afloat and passing their sky. And if you read the book from the Disclosure Project, Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge from Dr. Stephen Greer, it gives you another view on reality. Now, he's not Zionist Jew-wise, Dr. Stephen Greer, but he portrays a totally different truth as well. So you have to combine all of this research. Also the so-called esoteric or New Age movement, there's some truth in it as well. All those people that state that they're in contact with deities or ghosts or spirits or even God himself, They all are giving you a message. I myself am in transmedia contact, or was in transmedia contact, and have contact. Sometimes I feel the presence of other entities, and I can communicate them with telepathically. For me, it's a reality. So when I read books on transmedia communications and have an open mind to it, of course I sense it if it's a dark or evil entity that is giving this information, like the Set books as an example. I did not feel well reading those books. I'm just saying that it is not only the history or the conspiracy to cover up the truth on world Zionist Jewry that controls world affairs. There is this grander concept, this grander reality, the multidimensional frequency-based universe, the Vedic universe as an example. The ancient Vedas of ancient India gave a totally different view on reality and the universe, and they all depict an entire hierarchy of gods. Every major civilization had a hierarchy of gods, ancient Babylon or ancient Egypt with Horus and all their deities, or even ancient Greece. We are led to believe today that all these civilizations were delusional, or they had these concepts of gods being a huge family, or even Thor and Odin as an example, the Nordic gods, that all these civilizations and all these people, they made this up to explain nature. But what if they were really in contact with the celestial hierarchy, or the celestial nobility, or the gods, as some people even claim to be today? Conversations with God as an example. Also in the scriptures it is said that not one person, or only the fewest people, will still hear the voices of the gods. Everybody has become so materialistical and trained in dogmas that real contact, transmedia contact with the higher celestial entities is put out, deleted from our collective consciousness. We look at TV, and even science today apparently can explain anything, although it is part of the conspiracy to make you believe that this global religion that we deem as modern science, this atheistical philosophy, materialistical philosophy, is fact, whereas it is not. Because I know that you can prove the existence of ghosts, spirits, and etheric entities from the other dimensions. One day we will have cameras that can record this and can see, as an example, that here is one entity. There are already cameras that look at the infrared spectrum, but in a different manner. I've seen this on the National Geographic channel as an example, and you could see all the animals light up, light up, literally. You saw the dark plains, and the animals were all lighted up, like they recorded the essence, the energy essence, or energy signature of the animal. It's a totally new revolutionary concept. I don't know, I couldn't find it, or I would show you. I'm just saying that there's more to this than the eye can see. And if you induce astral projection or out-of-body travel, you can actually see these different frequencies and different dimensions, or even the Garden of Eden. There is a so-called biblical paradise. I've seen it actually during an Wii once. A peaceful place. Now, I actually wanted to talk about the Black Knight satellite, but this friend just went over everything, actually, over the entire spectrum of knowledge that I built up across the years. The Black Knight satellite, I believe it's foreign, extraterrestrial. I don't believe it's Imperial German, because the Black Knight satellite has been there longer. I believe that we're under observation from ET civilizations, and that the Federation of Light is also there, and that the Imperial Germans are also playing a role, and that this entire universe is full of life, and that this media down here that is under their control keeps us in a state of trance, or in a state of oblivion. There could be hundreds of UFOs flying by, people recording it, and you would never hear it on the news. A short video here. Well, if you go on YouTube and you look for cigar-shaped UFOs, you get literally hundreds of videos showing cigar-shaped UFOs. And if you if you look for the pictures online, you know that these entities exist. You know that it is a reality, that there is this phenomenon globally, and that it is not hocus pocus. Now, these cigar-shaped UFOs have been seen since at least 100 years. And if you look online for the Andromeda-Gerät, well, if you just type this under images, you get this documents from the SS Department SSE4, and it links it practically back to the 1930s and 1940s in Germany. These are the Haunobus devices. The Andromeda-Gerät, well, these are the schematics apparently from somebody who tried to rebuild it, but these are the original documents of that time. Well, as you could see, these cigar-shaped UFOs are seen everywhere across the world. You just have to do research on YouTube, type in UFOs. Of course, because of computer graphics, much of it can be falsified. But again, these sightings have been made since at least 50 years, and computer graphics is only like 20 years young. So this phenomenon has existed. I personally saw these UFO-type objects myself in 1987, 1989 on Tenerife. It's actually a hotbed for UFO activity also, and I saw them, so I know that they exist and they are real. Now the origin of it has to be researched. You can either believe Hollywood's version, ETs from Mars that want to kill us, or that this is an earthen phenomenon from the inner Earth, or the Imperial Germans, or even the shadow government of the USA developed anti-gravitics. Anyhow, this was my short rant on the Black Knight satellite and alternative realities. Hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.